Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jamie.
I'm Justina.
And this is
Just So You Know.
Today is a very exciting episode.
Extremely exciting. I am going to freak out because my two worlds are colliding. The only guilty pleasure I have is the Bachelor Nation franchise. And our special guest is Blake Moynes.
Is this your only guilty pleasure?
Well, this is my only popular guilty pleasure. Yes, is the Bachelor franchise. That is my thing. And we have Blake here today to talk about conservation and rescuing animals in the wild, which was like literally like my dream when I was a kid. Like Robert Irwin, I was like, this man is like the coolest dude. His enthusiasm, he was out there. I was like, he's living life.
Yeah.
But I just never thought like that was something I could do. And so I didn't do it. And so whenever I watch The Bachelor or The Bachelorette or Bachelor in Paradise, when I find somebody who I'm like, oh, they're freaking cool, I follow them. And when I noticed that Blake was rescuing animals, I was like, that's it.
He's got it all.
He's my favorite. He's my favorite of all time because he is out there in the wild, quite literally, and bringing people to see the animals and educate them. So, like, I want to be educated. Well, Blake
Moynes is definitely going to educate us today. He's kind of got it all going for him. The man is very good looking.
I'm done.
He rare. I mean, if we're going to talk about he's into the animals. Have you seen that meme? I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I do. Have you seen that meme where it's like when he's like loves animals and is hot, and it's like never mind.
I haven't seen that meme. Okay. Haven't seen that meme. I was gonna say something else, but we'll save that for later.
Okay.
Should we just get into it?
Yes, I think we absolutely should. We have a lot to cover today.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions for him.
Okay, let's do it.
Just do it. Meow. Hi, Blake.
Hi, how are you?
Good. This has always happened for you. I feel like anytime I've ever seen you do an interview, everyone's always like, Blake. And I'm like, me too, girl, me too. I'm next.
I mean, yes, no, you guys had like a very, very sweet intro. So I appreciate it. Very complimentary.
Yeah,
appreciate
well,
that.
we care about what you're doing. Like substance matters the most to us. So yeah, I was really adamant about getting you on the podcast. I mean, I remember seeing you at Mercy for Animals Gala, and I was supposed to be there, and I was like, dang. That was my opportunity to be like, you have to get on our podcast. But it's so lovely seeing you out there representing, the hard work that just gets forgotten, which is animal rescuing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very complex space. I didn't really know what I was getting into, to be honest, when I first started. But now I'm just so deep in that you can't really turn back. I feel like you feel like you have an obligation or, yeah, it would just be disservice to, even though how challenging it is, has to be done if we can help amplify some of the work that's being done out there and, get more exposure and reach to it and more funding and all the things. 'Cause conservation just needs everything right now. Then, So yeah, we're just diving in and taking steps forward every day.
Yeah, it's so interconnected. I mean, honestly, people don't realize that our lives depend on this.
Yeah.
And that what happens to all these wild animals if we are destroying their habitats, if we are taking skins from them, if we're causing them to go extinct, it throws off the ecosystem. And so it's like what we do onto others ultimately always comes back to us.
Right.
And so really like the work that you're doing, it's so important in all these different ways. And I think to start us off, can you just talk a little bit about how this went from maybe an interest of yours, from liking animals to a life's mission?
Yeah, because everyone knows you as being a part of The Bachelor. So we want to know your story, like what came first and like, did you take advantage of like the platform you gained from The Bachelor to now amplify your other passion? Like, let us know. How did it all start?
Yeah, I mean, I was always obsessed with animals as a kid. I was the worst in school. I passed everything with 50s all the way up even through university
hey, 50 is
and
50.
college.
That's good.
Yeah, I would just scrape by. I was always the class clown. And growing up playing hockey here in Canada was that was always like the main focus. So like grades and getting through school is not the priority. But the thing that always stuck with was I grew up in a cottage. So I was fortunate enough to constantly be ingrained and connected to nature, wildlife through just being on a remote lake, at a cabin every single summer.
So
And so the
cool.
curiosity around animals and things was always there. I was always lifting the logs and rocks and getting the snake and the turtle and the salamander and the frog and building ecosystems and
Oh,
doing all these things. So it was just like a natural curiosity that kind of was sparked at a young age. And um, I think the challenge was if I never had that, and I think for most kids, there's not a lot taught in school about these things, right? Like there's not a there's not a anything in the curriculum that allows people to be curious. And even then, there's a difference in curiosity and um, respecting wildlife and having a fascination with them when you can actually connect them in real life. And a lot of people
Right.
just don't have a cottage or go camping regularly. And especially now, there's so much technology and things that it's just there's so many distractions from the raw and real. And kids aren't on the street anymore playing even just sports. It's
I
just
know.
everything's through your phone. So it's worse and worse and worse. Now,
Mhm.
from there, yes, I played hockey and I didn't get the grades I needed and chasing girls and all that stuff, kind of was prioritized as I was growing up. And so, animals wasn't the I fell away from it
Right.
naturally. Um and then a little bit too late into realizing that I need better grades to like go and do zoology or actually pursue something as a career, outside of thinking I was going to make the NHL. Um, I just realized that I was in some trouble of getting into the programs that I would have wanted to get into in post-secondary. Um, and so I went to school not for wildlife specific education, but the next best path that allowed me to get in with no actual need for grades was outdoor adventure. And
Okay.
basically, what that was is allowed me to be like a professional guide, essentially, in the outdoor space, from like search and
Mm.
rescue or survival or anything guiding in the outdoor space in any discipline you could think of. I went to school for that, which allowed me to still be immersed in nature all the time because it was very practical, hands-on a week to week.
Didn't even know that was
Um,
a major.
We
You
would
could do it.
die if you put us in
yeah.
the forest. We would not survive. I don't know if we would survive a night.
Not if it's rainy and cold. No.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. Honestly, I battled through it because I was out in the middle of nowhere. You can imagine, right? I'm at some college program 5 hours north of any major city, and I
Mm.
see all my other friends like in university partying and like frats and like all these things. I'm just like living in a beaver den shelter I made for myself to like in a survival course
Is
type
is
situation.
there a
So it
shower
wasn't a
or toilet?
no, no,
No,
no,
no.
no,
A
no,
beaver's
We have
no.
den.
caves.
A beaver's den.
Hey,
Um,
beavers could be
so
into showers. I don't know. They like to swim.
the it's yeah, it was not for everybody. I don't think you guys would like that course whatsoever. I really even did. It was just a little bit too much for me. But um it allowed me to be out in nature again and like almost reignite me being like at the cottage and growing up. So there's that. It reignited me there. I started working with birds, predators,
Mm.
birds of prey in my 20s. That was my job coming out of school. I
Right.
would work with falcons, hawks, owls, and use them for um, conservation management, but also pest management. So imagine you go into the airport, you are in a safety risk if geese are all over the tarmac, right? So I would use falcons and essentially deter these birds and things from like getting stuck in planes or whatever the
Mm.
conservation angle was for conservation areas near here where we had to study different species, Caspian terns, common terns that are threatened species. So we'd come in and make sure that the gulls aren't eating their eggs. So it was just, I was
So
finding
cool.
any little job that I could to still be ingrained in wildlife.
Okay.
Then the transition started happening closer to when I went on the show, where I found out about rhinos and the poaching crisis. I went out to South Africa by myself, booked a one-way ticket, spent 3 weeks when I was 28, 29 years old, fell in love with rhinos, learning about what was happening with them. 'Cause rhinos are my favorite because they're like dinosaurs, and I loved dinosaurs as a kid. And then found out about what was happening. I realized this is the first time I've ever felt purpose, emotion, got emotional doing something. I was like, this, how do I make this a job? And I really didn't know how. About a year and a half later, I landed on the show,
Wow.
sparked some curiosity there with bringing the rhino and actually adopting it for Claire as my limo entrance thing. From there, I came off, started posting a little bit about rhinos, made a lot of money for an organization, realized, okay, there's something to using a platform for good. And then
Totally.
it spiraled into what it is today.
I want to back up real quick and have you just define the word conservation, because there are some concerns that I have where people will define it based on what they want to do with the animals. So there are hunters that will define conservation as keeping population sizes in check. There's some other people that will define it as rescue and saving nature and animals. So can you enlighten us and tell us, like, what is it? What does it mean to you, at least, and how do you use it in your work?
Yeah, I think, and we'll probably get into this a little bit more. I think the biggest challenge in conservation is that it is so complex and it is not linear. And so
Right.
there's so many components or aspects to what it is to conserve, right? Like, and how to conserve, because there's how do you conserve wild places? How do you conserve different species? How do you conserve uh, uh, resource and asset management? There's so many things that fall under the umbrella of conservation. So when you speak to, oh, I'm a conservationist, realistically, it's like, okay, but in what pillar and what way?
Right.
Because there's different categories within conservation. So you could be into rescues, you could be in land management, you could be in like wildlife reserve management and conservation. You could be there's so many things. So
Okay.
conservation is a word. Underneath that, you fit in and can do many different things under that umbrella.
What do you do
So
under that umbrella? And also add in what Sosa Adventures is and how that
yeah,
kind of works together.
yeah. So I mean, so okay, how do I explain it? We do lots of different things because the challenge is, especially for Sosa specifically, is that, well, one, and as you probably know, why you say it's like you've mentioned it, it's like difficulties, a dream to get in and do these types of things as a career. The challenge is that there's not many opportunity. The reason there's not that much opportunity is because it's not like the government has, there isn't a lot of money that is made through wildlife or conservation. So it's not like
So
there are
shit.
major needs for it. And within that, there's not a lot of ways you can monetize off of wildlife, realistically, aside from maybe tourism, right?
Right.
Or zoos or things like that. And so we have to figure out a way that if government's not going to be funding and having a lot of jobs out there, and we are identifying ways in which, okay, where is the most support needed, and how do we actually make the most impact? Well, the biggest impact being made is actually from nonprofit organizations and people going through school, getting their PhDs, putting nonprofits in place or rescues or whatever it is, whatever discipline you come out of. The challenge is they're not getting paid by the government. There's not a lot of work that's actually need to be done. They're selling a product. They're trying to protect something that it doesn't
Right.
have a value or is not returned. So the
That's
challenge
so
for us
sad.
was, okay, how can we come in and identify those gaps
Right.
and those challenges that nonprofits have because they're making the biggest impact? Okay, but how do we support nonprofits? How do we make this sustainable? We're still trying to figure that out because there's just not a lot of money in conservation. So we've had to think about different ways to bring in money, not only for ourselves, sustain ourselves, but then actually support the NGOs because it defeats the whole purpose if we
Right.
can't do
But
that.
how do we get to the
So
root of why this is happening to the animals in the first place? Like, yes, you're going out, you're doing these rescues, you have to raise money to do that. But like, how do we get to why this is happening to them in the first place? Otherwise, it's just this perpetual cycle of poaching, of clearing land that they then use to raise, grow crops to feed cattle,
Right.
and like,
Roadside zoos
yeah,
kind of.
yeah, I mean, and again, the root cause, realistic when it comes down to it, is think about resources in general, like resources being, it could be minerals, it could be oil, it could be
Mm.
timber,
Mm-hmm.
needing. So the root cause being that most places in which the animals live, or animals actually as a subject or a piece. You think about wildlife trafficking, right? It's, I
Right.
think, top three, with sex trafficking. So if there's a value on the animals to exploit them and use them for demand of their product, or the pet trade, or whatever it is, one that is by far more valuable in the black market, how much money is being made through that, than it is to, I don't know, have an animal in a zoo that might make money from that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's
Right.
one component.
It's
The other
greed.
being the places in which they live are extracted for resources. So the habitat is completely um, destructed on a regular basis because they're
Yeah.
extracting resources to, again, for the needs of humans, and so the root cause
Is
realistically
us.
is that
The
is
root
us,
cause
but
is
the
us.
is that the things around wildlife, like the ways in which you make money, is usually through exploiting them and ruining the places in which they inhabit.
Mm.
So how do we put a value on animals alive, more so than the
Right.
latter? And the challenge is like, there is no government, like there's no leadership that are really enforcing and showing that these things are so valuable. And the thing
Right.
is, money always talks, and money talks in a bad way for wildlife right now, because we're using them to make it, not
Right.
using them to protect it.
And with
Mm.
Sosa Adventures, do you use that as an opportunity to educate the people who are a part of those trips, letting them know that this is their home, this is their environment, this is what they're going through, this is how you can help? Like, is there an educational component to it as opposed to just seeing them?
Yeah. So our whole model is built directly on um, supporting our alliance partners. So SOSA is Save Our Species Alliance.
Mm.
Because at the time I didn't know, I knew what it was to represent and what our mission was, but I didn't at the time know how we were going to do that, to which now it's built out. So trips that we run
Mm-hmm.
are curated directly with an NGO or has NGO support. So for example, we're not going and hiring a third party or just like ecotourism operator that does X, Y, and Z that everybody can just book onto wherever you are in the world.
Right.
We create the relationships with our NGO partners, experts in the field that typically don't run tours or tourism, and we build out programs that have exclusive access, um, and provides a layer that essentially the NGO is there with us, showing the work, doing the work, and the commitment through not only showing up to actually participate in the program that we have, but also helps fund their initiatives. So it's our safaris and our programs isn't just going on a trip, being a passive tourist and not actually
Right.
being involved. How can we connect our people to the
Mm-hmm.
people doing the work so that there's long-term buy-in, but then the support, like imagine you supporting or wanting to donate to, I don't know, some organization. You're like, okay, if I give $100 right now, what is it actually doing? Is it going to the
Exactly.
animals, this
Yeah.
and that? So if we can bring people out, one, it's a sustainable way to give people, these organizations funding, but then it's connected. They see it's happening in real time. And so everything we do is through an NGO. So
Mm.
any move that we make supports them doing the work. And so with that, we're building a community around them, impact, and it's the connectivity, the connectiveness that people lack that I've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now they're able to go and do that, and they're finding a like-minded people that care and love the same things, and now we're building that Wild Ones
Mm-hmm.
community through that. So it's direct impact, not
Right.
passive tourism.
I'm curious the line between when we were working with animals and when we're trying to connect people with animals, the line between exploitation and actual a mutually beneficial relationship. And I'll give you an example. As a kid, my parents would always take us to the zoo. I loved it. I wanted to be around animals. I wanted to see them. But from that animal's perspective, they are
In hell.
in an enclosed space. They're in a prison their entire life, and one could claim that that's conservation because, well, those animals would be extinct otherwise, and they're here to help them, I guess, repopulate. I don't know. But so where is that line that you draw between bringing people into these animal spaces with them, allowing them to see them on these safaris, but then also like not maybe getting too close or keeping that separation of like letting them be autonomous?
Right. That was kind of like what I wanted. My question.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably one of the, I mean, well, just taking one step back, this is where the complexity of conservation comes in, and
Right.
why there's so much controversy or um, difference of opinions on approach,
Right.
because it's not linear, and because it's actually not. Everyone's still trying to figure out what is the best way to go about things. Not only just even from a research standpoint, right? Methods, technologies used, oh,
Right.
that shouldn't be used because of this, and everyone's fighting for funding so much so in the conservation space that um, it's toxic in that if we all had us three all had, I don't know, wolf conservation organizations, right? We're trying to fight to protect wolves. There's no money coming through at all. It's almost like the challenge with conservation organizations is they're competing with each other, but to actually the purpose is to actually just save wolves.
Yeah.
But there's no money to stay alive in the space. And so there's almost like a little bit of a put down on other organizations that are actually just trying to save the same animal you've dedicated your whole life to. So there's internal competition based on the fact that there's just not enough money coming through.
That makes
So
sense.
from that component alone, um, there isn't a right or wrong or deemed like this is 100% how you should do it, because there hasn't been a framework and that is like this is the concrete way to do so. So when it comes to zoos and how to determine how to actually move through conservation with through not being exploitive, are zoos bad? Um, how, what tourism is bad tourism for wildlife? What isn't?
It's
The way
okay.
that I
Don't
try to
stress out
think
too
about
much.
this, no, because it's challenging because you could go into so much depth into these
Right.
layers. The way I
Right.
would best approach it is you can't blanket statement um, zoos are bad, for example. It is easy to do if you get on one side or the other. And the reason that you can't blanket statement it
Why?
is because, for example, there are zoos on the spectrum. Like I went to Thailand and did an undercover investigation,
I saw
right, where
that.
they classify themselves as zoos, and a lot of that stuff will be coming out soon on YouTube, um, where it is strictly, purely exploitation.
Yeah.
Now, in the sense that there is no conservation programming, no commitment to conservation, no educational components. They have one tiger that could be sitting there on a chain front facing at the zoo. But after our investigation going into the back and finding these other places, there's hundreds of tigers in cages. And it's like, okay, well,
Wow.
there's more depth here. These tigers are likely being used for trafficking, their bones.
Oh.
There's a lot of craziness that's happening on the back end, right? It's a zoo, terrible zoo. And so, yes, you would say zoos suck. They're the worst. Now, flip side, if you look at the most highly accredited zoos, okay, let's look at the best scenario zoo. Yes, they have animals in there. One, determining why are the animals in there? Were they rescued? Can they be released? Like, how did they get in? So trying to understand that component first. Two, what are the actual conservation programs that are in place there, and what actually are they doing for conservation, be it um, breeding programs for reintroduction because populations are so decreased and they're not surviving in the wild because of X habitat is exploited. There's no wild breeding happening, or it could be um, actual research that's being done to understand an animal better so that you could understand how it moves in the wild more so. Than there's the educational components. For example, my thing here, right? And I think this is the challenge of why I don't think zoos are fantastic by any means. They also do provide a ton of funding for NGOs that allow the
Can you
NGO to
explain what
do their
NGO
work
is
in the
for our
field.
audience?
So a non-government organization, so a charity, or it could be any Yeah, because it's a nonprofit. So
Right.
anyone
Okay.
that's working in the field to help protect an animal, they don't have a lot of funding. But zoos,
They do.
if they're accredited and properly, they do provide, usually, depending on which ones, could be hundreds of thousands of dollars for these nonprofit organizations
Mm.
to be able to do the work that they need to do because it's not coming from government and all these things. So there are funding components, but then there also are research components and educational components. When I was a kid, right? I loved animals.
Mm-hmm.
I had the opportunity to grow up at a cottage and have a natural curiosity for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for the average person that doesn't have that, where do you connect with animals or where do you even get
That's
that
true. That's
spark
the
of
trickiest
curiosity?
part because the zoos do introduce that curiosity, that start of connection. Because if not, then we just see them on the screen, right? So that is really true.
What about a sanctuary though?
But okay, I was gonna ask Blake that question. Like, what do you think the difference is between a sanctuary and a zoo? Because often I find myself seeing it the exact same way. Like you were like, hi, in zoo, they're seeing how the animal behaves. I'm like, for what? Leave them the f- alone. Like,
Well, are you familiar with farmed animal sanctuaries? How they run?
Yes.
Okay.
Not in depth, but I have a decent understanding.
you're
Yeah.
more focused on wildlife.
Right, but an ethical farmed animal sanctuary would be where they are not using the animals in any way, shape, or form. They just provide a
Safe
shelter, safe space, food for them. They rescue them from harm's way, and people can come and visit, but there is a separation, there's a distance. Typically, there's no petting allowed. It's
Yeah.
very much like they are alive and now they need a place to be living because they were rescued, and now we're providing them the best way that we can with their natural instincts. So like providing them with a lot of fields to run around and be social animals, and so they are not actually profiting off of them in any way. And it's not looking at them as like what can they do for us, but as opposed to like what can we do for them? How can we serve these animals? The farmed animal sanctuaries that we go
Yeah.
to specifically.
Yeah.
Of course there's ones that are not ethical.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like when that was coming to mind with the zoo thing, that was it is this, not everyone is built the same.
Right.
You know, some of them I think are more on the end of sanctuaries. But it kind of just ties back to this idea of like, well, why are they here in the first place? Why are their habitats being taken in the first place? And you said it's like this greediness, this, oh, what can we take from their environments? What can they, provide for us as humans? And it's like this human-centric mindset that we live in of like, let's take, as opposed to like, how can we give back?
Right. Do you work with
Yeah.
sanctuaries?
I mean, I've had lots of experience through all disciplines, all facilities, all types. And I think another interesting point here, and this would be, I'm going to pose the question to you, in which I was able to learn while I was in Atlanta last week for World Wildlife Day. We visited the Atlanta Zoo. We actually did a quick presentation on this topic on zoos, of like, how do you determine what is ethical, what is not, what is the purpose of zoos, what are the positive and negative of zoos. And so you open up the floor because it is a challenging conversation to have, because there's so many things to think about. And what we found in something that I actually recently learned that I wasn't really thinking too much about or haven't had to, is there's a component alone, and I want to see what you think here.
Okay.
Imagine Atlanta, okay, massive airport, massive hub for transportation for people, but also goods and things pass through there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about wildlife trafficking and how prevalent that it is, okay? How do you think these animals move through, say, the Amazon and Peru, with spider monkeys and all these things when they're being shipped around? Where do they move through?
In
Ships is
cargo.
one, but in cargo is another, right? What happens and where do these animals go when you have 50 spider monkeys, 120 tortoises, whatever, how many wildcats that are confiscated and caught in the border? What happens to those animals when they are caught at the airport?
Well, they're
and,
not in first class.
confiscated?
We know that.
Wait, what do you mean? What happens to them
What
when they're
happen,
caught?
what happens to those animals
Do they just
once
kill them?
they are they would if there wasn't zoos and sanctuaries.
Yeah, they
Okay.
take them.
They would just be euthanized, right?
So
Right.
you're
And
saying
so-
like when they get caught doing the trafficking, what
Correct.
happens
So
to
when-
them? They go to the zoos.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
gotcha.
where could they go, and what is there space for them? Where's the money coming in for them?
Right.
How are we going to take care of them?
I see.
Can they be released back into
Do
the
they
wild? Do they
euthanize
have?
them?
They would if they didn't
There's
have
a
a
co-
space.
And there's a lot. The other challenges are the animals that are in the zoo, for example, aren't subject to the same zoonotic diseases and things that these wild animals would have. So they have to, one, do we have the space? Two, do we have the resources to take care of them? Three, are they going to infect all the other animals in this place? There's a lot, but all those animals, if there wasn't zoos and sanctuaries, all the animals that are being trafficked on a regular basis would just be you. What do you do with them?
Right.
Right.
You
There's
bring
a lot
them
of money
back.
that goes into all those things.
We let
You
them
send them back.
We put them in
Like,
their
where do you
natural-
live?
Right.
Where is this your tree? That's what we
God.
do to them. That's a sad thing. I know that there's been a lot of like investigations here in New York when they're like, hey, we know these people are smuggling X amount of monkeys. We need to go there and protest. I never even thought about like what do we do with them? We're like, we stopped them. Now we have 400 monkeys.
Here's the problem is like there's just so many problems when it comes to animals. I don't even know sometimes where to focus my attention. And
Right.
then it becomes this question of like, is there a level to this where like, do you feel that some species are okay to kill and exploit?
Is there some animals that are okay to kill and exploit?
Right. Like where would saving a life, where would your mission to save a life begin and end?
Well, I think that really is dependent and for us determined on a few different things.
Okay.
One being, let's say it is a deciding factor of whether it's orangutan or I don't know, a hare, like a rabbit coming through. What is, you know, both are a life, right, worth saving in that they all have their own place, right? And a lot of these sexier animals that we use as umbrella species essentially to protect a whole area because a lot of people will want to fund and support an orangutan,
Yeah.
but they might not
Right.
want to fund the songbird that lives in the jungle. So you use the orangutan as the thing that if you
That's
can
true.
fund him, you can then protect the animals underneath because there's a thing that's going to capture audience bigger than the other. I think it comes down to how important is the species to the
Environment.
functionality, the health of the ecosystem,
Right.
but to how close is it to the actual brink of extinction where we're losing an animal completely.
Okay.
And so again, this is one silo alone that you could go so much depth into.
Right.
But no, I don't think there's necessarily a difference into what animal you can or should be exploiting. What is the level of exploitation? And how do you determine what exploitation is? So there's so many things, but yeah,
I'll give you an example. Everyday people, they call themselves animal lovers. They even go about saving dogs. That's their life's mission. That's what they do. Yet for lunch, they eat a steak. And the question becomes, is there a difference between that cow and that dog that they're saving? Because really, they're in a position where they don't have to exploit or kill either.
Right.
And yet they just, out of their own convenience, want to keep eating other animals because, well, it tastes good.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, like,
Where's that line?
right.
And where's that truth when it comes to rescuing as many animals as possible and your love for animals? You know, that's like the big question, right? Like, whose life is more valuable than the other and to what extent? And like Jamie said, convenience.
I think the beauty of it is like a lot of times we don't have to choose one or the other because it's not the rabbit or the orangutan.
Right.
It's not the dog or the cow. It's like we don't have to be a part of harming either. And it's not to say that we're perfect in our lifestyles. Like unfortunately, we live in a world based on exploitation of humans, of animals, and even our money system. Capital, it means the head of a cow. It's built off of the backs of animals.
Right.
And so how do we begin to deconstruct that? I think the work that you're doing is it's a gateway into getting people to care about animals because it's very inspiring to look, and it's easy for people to say, yeah, like that rhino should live because technically they don't have to change anything about their own lives.
Yeah, they don't have that decision making every day with like, do I partake into the exploitation of rhinos or not. It's so far removed. But what do you have to say about that?
In terms of, sorry, there's a couple of things you had dove into. So specifically in regards to how do you,
Dog
like,
and
what is the
cow.
difference between, yeah. So I think it's so the challenge is that it's deeply rooted in culture and it's became so accessible. So
Mm.
what I mean by both those things is one, I think people would change their minds completely if it wasn't as accessible as it is. And what I mean by that is my decision making on some of those things and how I try to even position to, like, my mom, for example, who grew up in Portugal. And so, they like lamb and thing is natural for that. It's very embedded in their culture to these things. Now, if I had to give my mom the knife to kill the lamb, to eat the lamb, I'm sure that she would do, and if she liked animals the way that she does, if she had to go do it herself,
Yeah, she wouldn't do.
she likely would find all other alternatives to eat the carrots and the this and the that that she's farming, because just naturally a lot of us are not ingrained that way to make it that easy to do so. One, the other thing too being, it's not life or death for us. In some instances, when animals were harvested back in the day, it was
Right.
life or death of, I have to eat this and I've got to go and one, work for it and maybe hunt it and it's not just, I have to go to the grocery store, see a piece of meat, I don't have to kill it. It's here for me. And this seems normal because look at all this meat. So everyone's
Right.
doing this. So yeah, I should be eating it. So the culture, the way in which it's so accessible, and almost, if you think truly that you could kill the animal,
Mhm.
then I think you can be okay in eating that
Right.
thing. And also just trying to determine there's so much in depth here. Basically, it's way too accessible. It's been made way too easy. The way to make it hard would be if we had to go back to the olden days where you had to do it yourself. I think
Mm-hmm.
it would change that a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
also, it's just culture. It's been so ingrained for so long that meat has to be a part of the major staple of what you're eating on the regular. And so it's a combination of those two
Mm-hmm.
things. They are not different. It's the same. It's 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 cultures are slowly being changed, I
Mm-hmm.
think, in multiple different ways, especially when it comes to conservation. But that is the challenge in the shift. It's made so easy for us, and it's so accessible and made so normal that going back now is going to be very, very challenging, I think, unless government
Mm-hmm.
makes more mandates, makes it more tax on it, whatever it is. But
Right.
again, it's all money. They make so much money on these things.
Always
So
Yeah.
why change that?
It's the everyday people, right, that you're bringing up of like, could they kill the animal themselves? But even more specifically, the people working in animal rescue that are saving some lives, like literally dedicating their entire lives to saving some lives. And then they are the reason that other lives are being taken. And it kind of just makes me question, well, what is the difference between that pig and that dog?
Right. Just like veterinarians, like
Oh my
they're
God.
fighting to save these animals, yet on their lunch break, they're not saving animals.
Or they are like operating on the chicken and then like eat, like I've literally seen veterinarians that have patients that are the animals that they're eating.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that
And
is
that's a struggle for us, but like to just take it a little bit back. We're going to go back to that subject again. But like that's struggles for us in our everyday lives. What are some struggles or misconceptions that you think the public has about conservation work, especially regarding like day-to-day realities of protecting the vulnerable species?
So you're saying the misconceptions that people probably are starting thinking about it in conservation, and like
Yeah. Like to the day-to-day realities
Yeah, what is
in
it-
that field, like that people just don't know. It looks glamorous, like you said. It looks very sexy. This is a
Yeah.
dream life. But what are the actual struggles that you go through? Because I know it's not easy for you. I think I recently saw a video of you and you were like, whew, and you were like kind of joking around to avoid like the truth of what was happening. So like, what are some things that people are just not getting or seeing behind the scenes to the on your day-to-day life when you're out there doing the hard work?
Yeah, I so Jesus.
It's okay. You could cry.
combination.
You can cry.
One,
She
We
cries every
here.
one.
episode.
Um, so I think the thing that is the biggest reason in which people think it might look glamorous or easy, one is most times the hardships and the sensitivities and the actual major challenges that are happening in this space, the vulnerability, the authenticity that we should be actually showing, which Sosa is really trying to lean into in the next year, 2 years, and really trying to pull back the curtain, essentially, is that
That's cool.
nonprofit organizations operate mostly pretty corporately, public facing wise, right? It looks polished, it's pretty perfect. Everything goes perfect. Nothing ever dies. Like that's not the
Right.
reality. That's not the reality. The challenge here though is that when you have um, harmless creatures that you're trying to protect, if you are making mistakes in the field and those things are public, you get a lot of scrutiny from
Mm,
audience, which is not great. People are, if anything dies, if any animal dies, it's like, how did you let this happen? Da, 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 da.
Right. Right.
Now, challenges being nonprofit organizations, maybe operating on, I have $20,000 here. I have three people but I actually need 20. I don't have, I have maybe 10% of the medicines or the tools I need to actually save this animal, whatever it is. There's natural challenges there, stress wise, financially, bandwidth, resources. How many emails can I save, and how do I do it? How do I get attention on this media? Do I need to exploit to get clicks to like maybe get people more to my page? Like there's so many challenges
Right.
that they're trying to figure out. And so
mhm.
I think the thing is because nonprofits all want to keep the same reputation, and their respect from their other conservation peers are so important, because then you
Yeah.
can get alienated if you do things a little bit differently. It's always so polished and perfect that the actual reality of what's happening and the challenges that go in across the board in this space are not talked about or shown because of the sensitivities around it. And they're worried about the imperfections being exploited or people coming down on them for that stuff. So
That makes sense.
not, it's not shown. The thing is I think if the actual real life stories and the challenges and showing these people broken, doing 16-hour days in the jungle, trying to do these things, there is relatability if they just could understand and see it. But I think the organizations of people are scared to show that side because they want to be shown as perfect. If they're killing animals by accident and trying to save this jaguar or whatever it is,
Hmm.
and they kill that animal, do you think that
No
organizations are going
one's
to get
giving you money.
more funding or less
No.
funding, right?
Yeah, I
Mhm.
The thing is,
understand.
these are happening regularly. So there's so many things. It's so hard. It's so hard. I think that the whole struggle is that they don't have enough support
Right.
and funding.
Mhm.
If they had more, there'd be more success and more. There's just it's a lack of resources and support, and everyone's fighting for attention, money, all of it. And so,
Yeah, it
yeah.
is true. I mean, can you share a specific story or example of being face to face with one of these species, of one of these animals, and how that affected you? And also, I'm just curious how these rescues work. Like, I would be a little afraid to be up close with like a lion or a
Not me. I'd be like,
tiger.
baby, what are you doing?
And then her head would get ripped off. Yeah.
Not me. I'm Princess Jasmine.
Um, yeah, so they they're all very different in their own ways. Obviously, we do research aspects where you are can be very hands-on with wildlife and say like sharks, for example. There's lots of different programs that are research stuff where it's not a rescue, you're just doing research
Okay.
with wildlife through the nonprofit. That's one. But in just like rescues specifically,
Hmm.
rescues can come in different forms. So, for example, one of our partners like 2 days ago just had another orphan rhino come in, like a 1 day old calf. The mom was killed by a
No.
poacher. They find that orphan. They've got to go out into the middle of nowhere. They put it in the back of a car. They're sitting with the thing, and now they've got 2 years of, okay, I got to care for this animal because it takes 2 years for an orphan rhino to be even potentially be released back in the wild. So there's different
So sad.
rescue scenarios where you deem rescue, and then the care of, okay, now I've got this animal. It is so much money to take care of this thing and get it to the point that we can release it again. Where do we find the funding and the money and all those things? The biggest, I think, or the craziest rescue scenario specifically that we've had that you're mentioning, we were in the Amazon 2023. There was a wildlife trafficking zoo. Um,
The wildlife trafficking zoo. I want to punch them in the face.
in a small town in Peru, like essentially in the jungle, like a smaller community. And so it was identified through an organization that we were working with out there that is doing incredible work in the jungle and rehabbing large cats mostly, but anything. Now they're just most sanctuaries start off being, we're going to do this, but then all these different animals start coming. You start taking care of everything. We went in with them in trying to support the documentation, one, the actual hands-on, because they didn't have enough people to get all these animals out of this trafficking zoo, but with the government to essentially evacuate pumas, jaguars, ocelots, caiman, anaconda, coati,
Oh my God.
peccary,
Anaconda.
there was so many different animals there. So we had to go in and over a stage period of time, the first stage was 7 days. We had to get as many as we could out through the resources of like literally nothing. So we're like building crates and all these things. While we were in there, a tamandua showed up that was to be exploited.
what?
I don't know if
What
a
is?
tamandua. It looks like a anteater almost.
Okay,
It's
okay,
like
okay.
one of my favorite animals now that I've seen them up close and personal. Very unique animals, but these rescues can be really intense. In that, did all animals make it? No,
And you could get
no, they
injured
didn't.
too.
You can. I mean, listen, trying to get all these animals out on with one veterinarian and not knowing one these animals whatsoever, but two, you don't know the health status of these animals, especially in these like zoos that are
Right.
actually trafficking, but like they're being positioned as like a zoo, like almost like how do I
Like a
explain it? Almost like
roadside zoo,
a
like a dirty,
very
dirty.
similar vibe, very
Yeah.
similar vibe, right? So these animals are not getting vet care on a regular basis the way like an accredited proper zoo would be at like Bronx Zoo or whatever, where they're actually at least taking care and doing medical and they're vaccinated and they're taking care of them. So if you're coming in with a vet who doesn't know any background history on these animals, and shit, if I apply this, I don't know if it is
Oh,
allergic to this, how it
that's
will
true.
react to this.
That's true.
I might be trying to save this animal to get it out so I can put it under and put to
Euthanize
sleep.
them.
Euthanize.
Sedate,
Sedate, sedate.
Sedate.
Trying to get this animal off like a
Sedate.
euthanize.
Right?
Whoa,
And
but
so
that's what you're
by
doing?
trying, you know what I mean? But by trying to do that, I might just actually kill this animal, trying to get it out of this place.
It's true.
Right. So
Right.
there's a lot of challenges. Now we only lost it was we lost a peccary, and we almost lost the caiman. We almost lost a caiman, but it actually what came back. Well, I was surprised. It was a crazy story.
Oh my
But
gosh.
yeah, these rescues are intense. They are yeah, a lot of work, and then the work really goes into getting these animals back into the wild again after going through years of rewilding and then finally the release.
The people that criticize are the ones that don't actually do anything either. Like,
Right.
it's actually so funny. I'm like, you're sitting behind your keyboard and you're yelling at me about how I should advocate for animals,
Right.
yet you eat animals.
Yeah. And you're not doing anything.
Well, it's interesting you say that because we actually shot the project. I went there first by myself after doing a small project in Bolivia. And it went down because they knew I was in the area, saw me there. They said, "Hey, can you help us get all these animals out of the zoo?" It's a crazy thing. It was just going to help with the socials and the funding to help then get the money that they can then release these jags
and
and
then
stuff
you're
again.
like holding a jaguar. You're like, this is not what I signed up for.
And then we went back a month later to help get the rest of the animals out, and we shot it all. So we went down with a small team. It was actually picked up from a streaming platform to which it's been shelved since, which is super annoying. But where was I going with this, though? I had a reason for this. What was the question? What was the
Well, I don't
question?
think there was a question. I think
I
you just
mentioned
got
criticism, like
the
critiques.
people who are not doing
Oh,
anything
right.
about
This is the
it.
thing. So we shot it all. And as we're producing these things, right, there's little stories and things I'm putting on social media about whatever's happening.
Okay.
And people are like, you should be doing this. You should be. And it's like, you get the fuck out here.
Thank
then.
Exactly.
You pay, you get on a flight, you put a team together, you come down here and spend fucking 2 weeks in the jungle in
Exactly.
the pouring fucking rain.
Right.
And tell me how you should do it and put the money behind it.
Thank
Because
you.
if you're not gonna actually do anything, fuck off.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
I just
It's
How about
okay.
do it better than me.
We'll
Do it better.
We'll be your little army from now
Right.
on when we see the trolls in your comments.
Yeah.
But two things. If your footage got shelved, there is a streaming platform called Unchained TV, and it's all about animals rescuing, reality shows, cooking shows, the good and the bad, documentaries, all that stuff. So
platform.
shoot me a message or just like look up Unchained TV, and they would be happy to have your footage and spread the word of like what your organization is doing.
That's great.
I met her,
Jane?
the host of that
Yeah,
show. Is
you
her
met her.
host?
Yeah,
I
Jane.
met her. I met her.
Jane.
Yeah,
I
don't
met
sleep
her.
on her. She'll put all your stuff out there.
Yeah.
She will make sure that it's streaming. She will put you on to try to get you awards.
We have a show.
We have a little reality show. Like,
Yeah.
she's the best. So there's that. And we want to end this because we will talk to you forever.
What gives you hope? The what gives you hope?
Oh,
one.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
sure.
So-
Well, you could say that one. Go ahead.
Okay, so I have one more question, then Justina has one. I'm super curious. I think it's always important to stay optimistic in this kind of work because then otherwise, why do you do what you do?
Right.
So looking ahead in the next 5, 10, 20 years, like what gives you hope and what scares you about the future of wildlife on this planet?
I think the thing that my feel is that AI is this big topic right now, right?
Right.
And I think I'm always very optimistic in general. I'm not very, very rarely pessimistic. But the look out of AI for me, I think is going to do actually two potentially beneficial things for wildlife and nature in general. One, I think that people are going to go so heavy into the disconnected realm of phones, iPads, AI, everything's so digital. And there's such a value to that right now because that's what's everything's cool. It's new.
Right,
It's
it's new.
this, da, 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 da. But I think that we will become so disconnected that psychologically, emotionally, mentally, we will eventually hope, and I think this is my hope, start to crave the complete opposite again, where getting out in nature and appreciating things that are real, not AI, that actual human side of like being fulfilled from the things that are instinctual for us,
Yeah.
the
Real life.
nature, being out in real, but in nature and being back in touch with the things that we so relied upon, being animals and being in this web and more of a respect for all of what is pure, raw, real, and natural. And I hope that we go so far that the other thing becomes so valuable again, and that people will want to not be doing the AI stuff and be like, I need to get out and go on a safari or do a thing or go camping or whatever. The more that you can just start to connect a little bit more, the more appreciation, because you're going to feel fulfilled and not, it's almost like a mental health escape,
Right.
because we're going so here. And I think that is a natural way to actually breathe again. So I hope that is one piece. But then the other piece is conservationists get a lot of shit and this is a challenge that we have with AI, where it's you can't use AI, don't use AI as conservationists. But we're not talking about AI as a forward-facing like AI generating animals or whatever it is. Conservationists don't need to do that. We shouldn't be doing that. But in our tools and example in our software, one, we talk about resource management and how we have such little resources, be it funding, personnel, bandwidth, all of that. We're all just depleted zombies for the most part because there's just not enough money coming through. If we don't utilize AI properly and actually do use it in some of the back end, the amount of productivity that happens with AI,
Right.
we're already so depleted that if you also tell conservation organizations you can't use AI because it sucks up this much water, this and that, realistically, it's going to be here to stay.
Right.
It's people that are using
Relax.
AI for the things that are not um that it's all just money, 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 generation. But if you don't give conservationists
Right.
any
A
leeway
little
to
bit.
use AI, because the thing is like,
The
okay,
bad guys are using it.
I'll continue doing everything manually, but like we're already so behind trying to get attention, trying to get this, trying to get like, and if AI can support, the conservation should be using it, but only in the right ways and where it can help alleviate needing to pay for this person to do that. How can we use it properly, but also how can we use AI so much so in the conservation space, whether it be research, anti-poaching protection measures of
Right.
tracking this or certain cameras to make sure poachers aren't coming in and depleting rhino
Yeah.
even more. How can you use AI in actual real positive ways
Mm-hmm.
Right.
for protecting nature
Right. The
and
long-term
not
game.
so yeah, I think AI could be both good in those realms if used
Properly.
properly and not exploited for
Mm.
reasons or used in the ways that most people are using it,
I agree.
which is
I
usually
love your hope
Yeah,
statements.
optimistic.
I think you're right. I feel like Jamie and I, she looked at me when you were talking about AI because I'm like, and I've caved into it, but I do think that we're gonna tap back into who we are and stray away and be like, I need a freaking break. I mean, we already start to feel it when we're on our phones. We're like, put this thing away from me. Like, I'm literally dying as a human. This is not meant to be a part of my life.
And it depletes our natural experiences where we get these big dopamine hits, and then
Yeah.
then you actually find yourself in an intimate conversation with someone, and then it's like not as vibrant as it could be because you're used to this like scrolling
Next,
and hit.
yeah, I'm
and
like,
scrolling and
next
hit.
topic. I'm
It's-
over it. What that is about.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. We need to move away from
Blake, I have to ask you this.
that.
So, are you vegan?
I'm not, but I've been
Why?
in and out.
Not
I've
yet.
been
Por
in and out.
qué? Por
Well,
qué? I just want to know why.
well, for one, it can be extremely challenging. What I mean by that is, and I know you're gonna be like, oh, I know, easy answer. Now, when I was vegan,
So you were
I
vegan.
remember, yes,
Okay.
yeah. So there was a challenge where and I think I was like, I don't know, 8 months into it when I went to Kenya in 2021. And we went into the bush and we were living with the rangers out in the bush for 2 weeks. And dinner that night, what they brought back was they were eating what was given to them from a local town, little village, and it was the carcass of a goat. And they brought that back, and I wasn't speaking, they don't speak English, so
Yeah,
I was with my
they
brother
were
after doing this.
disrespectful. You're like,
Right. And so there's lots of instances where I'm in the field where it's
Right.
not accessible.
you now the choice is we don't have vegetables and you're just getting what this is, and sometimes it's goat cartilage and bits
Oh,
and so it's like,
God.
okay, well then that immediately just eliminated me being vegan in that moment,
Right.
but then you can go back to doing it. So
Yeah.
it is it's challenging in those things in the which we are in remote places on the regular,
Yeah.
where you do have choice and things sometimes and others you do not. And so it is a constant conscious decision based off of especially knowing what the impact is of eating particular things, whether it be shrimp and tuna, for example, and salmon. Like I don't touch those things because I know how much it exploits sharks in the bycatch of sharks and essentially depletes the population of sharks
Got
in
it.
bycatch.
Sharks
So
are
I
your
don't support that
favorite.
through
We
that.
got it.
So
Okay.
there's
Next.
different ways in which I go through. But it's a challenge because I go in and out of it. And the thing is for me, I follow the same thing as how it's accessible and we don't have to fucking deal with the shit of knowing how it got here.
Right.
I'll force myself to watch these things, to re-click in is like,
Yep.
no, remember when you're eating me, like, no, it sucks to watch this lamb being tortured right now on PETA's,
Yeah.
Instagram. But the thing is, like, you should be going through this yourself. So if you can't watch this, then you shouldn't eat this
Totally. Well,
because
hopefully being with us today, we've like relit that fire. We're in this together. It's teamwork. It's not about shaming or judging. It's really just about asking the question at every meal, how can we be a part of creating a more peaceful planet and being part of the change and the solution? And when we talk about the work that you're doing, animal agriculture is a huge part of why we have species extinction, have wildlife destruction, and we do not want to feed that. So where you have the option where you can, being vegan, it's like, okay, let me do the bare minimum and let me see where I can help.
Yeah.
So,
no, I'm happy. I didn't even know you used to be vegan, and I understand those types of challenges. I have no idea what I would do in those situations. I guess I'd have to pack on that weight before I go into the bush.
I would starve
because I don't think I can eat a goat carcass, but I understand, and I hope that you do continue to watch those videos and remind yourself why, because that just makes you a better animal rescuer, animal activist. Because, I mean, wouldn't you consider yourself somewhat of an animal activist?
Yeah.
I would say so.
sure, of course.
I would say so. So, yeah.
Well, this was super enlightening. I'm inspired to come on one of these trips at some point.
Yeah, I almost did. I need to, just so I could see the Sosa way, the Sosa lifestyle.
The exact thing that we're talking about, where we're so far one way. The people that keep coming on trips, we have a 75% return rate, and the reason for that is they can. It's the dopamine that you can't really explain in that one. It's extremely fulfilling what you're doing. You're meeting people that are like-minded. You meet other people that really care about animals. You're doing experiential things that are like memories for a lifetime. You're supporting and meeting experts in the field that are so passionate about things that it's inspiring. It feels good. And so across the board in these things, you're finding community. You're connecting again in a real raw way in nature. It is feels good mentally. Physically, you're seeing the work that's impactful, and you can see how you're supporting. And it's just a tribe that's kind of being created through this Wild Ones community that we're building, and we're just slowly expanding that with all these new destinations and places and trying to help as many animals as we can.
How can they follow you, Blake, and learn more about the Sosa project or Sosa Adventures?
So we are on Instagram at the .sosa. But we also have now started the YouTube channels 3 months ago, where I've invested some money into some editors going through, oh my God, terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of hard drive footage that I didn't have resources at the time to actually edit and go through. So all of those expeditions and places we've been all around, now you're seeing those vlogs, and you're seeing all the work that we're doing across all those long form pieces of content. You're meeting the professionals, seeing how these rescues happen.
Ooh, so cool.
Do you know Jeff Corwin?
I do.
Okay, so there was just a show on, I think, CBS where it kind of reminds me of like they were meeting the experts in the field, and you need a show on a popular channel like that.
Yeah.
Maybe with this footage.
We're working on, we have some conversations going right now. It's one of these bigger ticket things that are going to help us alleviate some of the stresses and the financial pressures of these things. And
Wonderful.
yeah, there's two big projects in those that hopefully if they get picked up and moved, then I think it'll be do some good things.
We'll be following.
Yeah, I wish you the best and the most success. And
thank you for all you do.
Yeah. Thank you for all you do. Reach out to Unchained TV for the thing that got dropped, and for any little bits.
It's inspiring for sure. We'll meet at some point, I'm sure.
For sure.
No, I appreciate you guys having me.
Wonderful. All right, guys, go check out Blake and his work and the Sosa Project, and we'll see you around, Blake. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
I didn't know Blake was vegan. That's good. I mean, it is really hard. I mean, that's like one of the biggest challenges that people have, like when they travel or if they're in a different culture. I know a lot of different cultures like get offended if you don't eat what they offer you, especially if you don't speak the same language.
Oh, God.
I can only imagine how like awkward that could be. But
Yeah,
the more you know.
The more you know, for sure. And he's right. It's such a big topic in conversation when we talk about conservation. And so I think we were able to break down a lot in today's episode.
And there's so much more. Right. So much more I wanted to ask him about, you know, when it comes to sedating the animals, you know, like he did touch on that a little bit. Like you could lose them because it's even like with humans, like if you don't have a record, you could give someone something and completely kill them or hurt them. So I wish I would have asked him, has he cried? And like, what was a crying moment?
I'm sure you could see like the challenges that he's going through.
I know he seems so stressed out. I felt so bad.
But what's cool about him is he's really using his platform to bring awareness to this issue.
He is.
That's what it's like so easy for, you know, social media people and people on reality TV just to get caught up and like me. Yeah. And this is like so outside of himself. And like he's actually going into these places, going on the ground, doing the work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And I do have hope that like the stories that he tells will help people make the connection to all animals. For me, it started off with like just loving to go to the zoo and like look at where I am now, where I can look at things from the animal's perspective, each individual animal, and try to like form a opinion about what situation would be best for them. Like it's complex and it's complicated, but I try to ask, you know, what would I want done to me or to an animal I love, like before I do this to somebody else. And how do we just get away from this human-centric mindset of like that we know what's best for them too, I guess, but when we look at what we've already done to the planet by destroying the habitats and poaching, it's like now Blake is coming in with the rescue team of like, now we have to deal with the mess that humans created.
It's never ending and it is overwhelming. And I'm so happy that he's using his platform, because not everyone uses their platform for doing the right things. And he had this little dream when he was younger. He got some sort of public view and he capitalized on that for the better. And it takes a really good person to say, now that I have all of these people looking at me, listening to me, what do I do with that? And to choose doing what's good and inspiring people to make more conscious choices is so admirable, which is why like I followed him and it was like, oh my God, great. I wish more people were using their platform to do what's right, you know?
Yeah.
And he's had this dream since he was little. That's so beautiful.
It's like a passion project for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, I mean, we're over an hour at this point, and we really appreciate everybody taking the time to listen, to learn about this subject matter. It's, you know, when we look at wild animals versus enslaved farmed animals, it's all these lives do matter, and different systems and ways that we exploit. And so it's kind of interesting to see how they intersect, and also like talk about where is that line with caring and not caring, and asking these tough questions. And I'm glad that Blake engaged us with them, because some people do just shut off.
He was very open.
He was.
And hope all of you guys are open as well.
Definitely. And so you know where to find us, guys. Please follow. Just so you know, it's JSYK Podcast on Instagram.
You can follow me at Justina.Justina.
I'm at It's Jamie's Corner.
And you know the drill.
Well, you guys got to go like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.
Please comment, share, tag us. We want to know what your thoughts are and how you are a part of the positive change or where you're struggling with.
And go on a Sosa adventure.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll join you.
I would love that.
But you know the drill. Until next time, we will be back.
We will be back.
We'll be back. We'll be back. We'll be back.